Hey, don't ignore me. It's been a while, isn't it? I can't believe you're still alive in this era, with an annual income of $10,000. Just working at a burger shop doesn't make ends meet, right? She left me, thinking I was a low-income, low-educated man. I don't remember ever saying I had an annual income of $10,000. If I were to think of $10,000, it might be about the rent. Is this what a cultural festival like? I asked, and she concluded that I had only finished high school. My name is Chester, 50 years old. I work part-time at my brother's burger shop on weekdays. I had lived alone for a long time, so I could cook in general, and my brother always called me when his competent staff took days off. The rest of the time, I was either poking around on my computer or enjoying keyboard practice. My occasional pleasure was the irregularly held live concerts. It's been 3 years since I participated in a member recruitment at a nearby music store. Surprisingly, the band's first live performance was at my wedding. It was a fun time when I was engrossed in practicing for the band rather than preparing for the wedding. If I had been attending college, I thought I would have enjoyed practicing for the cultural festival in a similar way. One day, when I finished a live concert and was drinking with my folks on my way home, I heard a familiar voice. When I turned to the direction of the voice, my ex-wife, Catherine, and a man were walking arm in arm. I prayed to God not to notice me, but Catherine came towards me. I had known Catherine for about 5 years, and we started dating casually and got married 2 years later, only to get divorced. I cursed my destiny more than ever at that moment. I pretended not to know her. With an annual income of $10,000, just working at a burger shop doesn't make ends meet, right? I was a little tipsy, and Catherine's words reached my ears, but I couldn't understand the meaning at all. What's that supposed to mean? Your annual income. I was just talking about it. Did I ever mention anything about my annual income? To be honest, expressing my income through my job was difficult. It was because it had fluctuated greatly from year to year. After all, you just help your brother's burger shop occasionally, right? You mean, you don't even have an annual income of $10,000? Oh, who are you? I'm sorry. The man next to her chuckled. You're so old and have long red hair. Is rock and roll still the best? Furthermore, the man next to her burst into laughter and spoke out. I had a live concert. I dyed my hair for today. That old man's band, right? By the way, what happened to the self-produced CD? Don't try to sell it to me just because it didn't sell well. It's annoying. I don't have it anymore. I sold it off early. At the time when Catherine had proposed a divorce, our band had been involved in self-producing a CD. I remember fondly the time when Catherine, who was cute back then, had put illustrations on the lyrics card. Did you distribute the CD at the live venue? He asked while laughing out loud. We didn't have sponsors, and it was self-produced, so we couldn't make a lot of them. With that, aren't you in the red? With a low annual income? If you make a loan, you'll have to go to the other world. Don't come out as a ghost in front of me at that time. Catherine imitated a ghost's gestures. She was honestly quite beautiful for her age, and she looked younger, but I couldn't help noticing her age in certain ways. By the way, didn't you have much of an education, do you? You kept asking about what a cultural festival is like. So, you didn't go to college and just graduated from high school, right? That's why your annual income is $10,000. I kind of understand now. Education and income are proportional, except for a few geniuses, of course. She sure had the nerve to say whatever she pleased. I didn't know she was this kind of woman. Well, the first time I saw Catherine was at a casual restaurant I happened to stop by, and it was what they call love at first sight for me. Despite being over 10 years apart in age, that didn't bother me one bit. From then on, I visited that restaurant every day. After several visits, I gradually became able to talk to Catherine, and I eventually invited her to a movie on a weekend. After that, we had a fancy lunch, went for tea at Starbucks, and after a few dates, I confessed my feelings. Later on, I proposed, and I married Catherine. It was a remarkable achievement for me, the first since the time I had filled up the large venue with my band. What was so appealing about her, you ask? Well, she was petite and cute. Her loose-fitting attire at the bar was also enticing, and she had long, beautiful black hair, but most importantly, she had a radiant smile and was undeniably beautiful. To be honest, I never had trouble with women until my 30s. Being in a band made me quite popular, and I had my way with women. But despite all the attention I received, the one I really wanted to win over was Catherine. Now, the Catherine in front of me has brown hair just like the guy next to her. Come to think of it, I remembered something. There was a day when Catherine suddenly cut her hair and came back with brown hair. The next day, she left a divorce notice and her key on the table. I didn't understand the reason, but Catherine had changed gradually from the time we first met. When she left, I was down for several days, the first time since my band had disbanded. Since then, it took me quite a while to forget about Catherine. Why did she appear in front of me now, and with a man by her side? Did she leave because of money? She's been saying my annual income is $10,000 since earlier, but I didn't get it. I've been hearing it from earlier, my annual income is $10,000, right? Where did you come up with that figure? I saw your payslip, it was around $870, so I thought your annual income is around $10,000. I understand now. Catherine must think my only source of income is the part-time job at my brother's burger shop. There's no way that's true. With that meager salary, we couldn't afford to live in the apartment we used to have. How much was the rent for that apartment? It was $10,000, so you're saying my annual income disappears in just 1 month's rent? No way. The monthly rent for that apartment was $10,000. Wow, that's amazing. Remember there was a concierge at the entrance? They even helped us get theater tickets once. There was a pool, and I remember going shopping for swimsuits just for that, plus I used to go to the gym. Do you remember? Even though you always quit after a few days, you went shopping for workout gear back then, and when you were in a bad mood, you would always go to the sauna room for some relaxation, claiming it made you feel better. It seemed like Catherine was reminiscing about our life together, and I, while we were trying on clothes in the store, remembered her habit of asking for my opinion every time she tried something on. At first, I would give my input, but as time went on, I got tired of it and started giving vague responses while looking at my phone. She used to get angry and say, "Pay attention," and even her angry face was cute. I recalled how difficult it was to get her back in a good mood after those moments. I hate to bring this up, but if you are living with him, does he have all these things? Come to think of it, we don't have anything like that. Well, if there's anything, it's the exercise ball in the room. It's a small apartment, so it's quite annoying. Catherine said without thinking, glancing at him. He looked apologetic. By the way, is what he's saying true? Where were you guys living? Catherine pointed to the taller building while looking back. You know, the penthouse in that building over there. It was a hassle entering the building, and the elevator took forever to arrive, so it always irritated me. But the good thing was that, when I ordered stuff online, they could hold it downstairs, and I didn't have to worry about redelivery. That was convenient. That building is a luxury apartment where celebrities live, right? Then, there's no way his annual income is $10,000. I used to see celebrities in that apartment. Wasn't New York like that? Have you ever met a celebrity in my apartment? I have. He lives on the first floor. I forgot his name, though. That guy was an unknown comedian who hadn't made it big. He was kicked out recently for not paying rent. By the way, Chester, were you rich? I mean, I knew where we lived was impressive, but why did you have a delinquent-style car? And, despite being in the passenger seat, it was on the driver's side, and to top it off, I kept opening the door upwards every time. And, well, it's not bad to get attention, but having your picture taken all the time was quite invasive of my privacy. It really was rather rude. That's a supercar, isn't it? That's right, but now I'm calmed down. Could it be that you can't afford those noisy flashy cars with an annual income of $10,000? It's not that I can't afford it. That was a limited edition, and I had a friend help me get it. It cost around $2 million if I recall correctly. It was cheaper than I expected. Wait, $2 million for that car? Are you kidding me? But there were only 3 of them in America, and it was a hassle. Thanks to that, when I traded it in for the next car, I got some money back. I couldn't even fit my musical instruments in it. Getting in and out was indeed inconvenient. Also, I was always nervous about driving it, especially when dealing with bumps or going into grocery stores. What does this guy do to earn money? Is he doing something shady? I don't know anything about it. He's just doing part-time work at his brother's burger shop and clicking away on the computer at home. I already told you, back when we were dating, but you never believed me. I don't remember at all. Can you make money with an old man band? Catherine's voice became a somewhat sweet purring voice, and without realizing it, she had already released her arm from her guy. Well, I used to be in a band that had a debut. And I wanted to play again after a while. It's more like a hobby for me, but surprisingly, it was well received. We're going to make our major debut soon, but it still doesn't bring in much money. My main job is what you mentioned, Catherine, clicking away on the laptop. I mentioned a few well-known female groups. I create songs and provide them. I make music on my computer. Seriously? Was I unknowingly contributing to your ex-husband? I bought 10 CDs by that group the other day, just because I wanted to get their autographs. So that's why you were broke back then. I had no idea. Catherine and the man started bickering. Oh, now that you mention it. I heard about it. You said you create songs and provide them to pop idols. But at that time, you said it didn't pay much. At that time, I was just starting out. Now, I'm working on most of the albums. You can check it by searching on your phone. Most of the songs are credited to CT. That's me, Chester. Oh, yeah. Most of them are credited to CT. That's amazing. By the way, what kind of band were you in back then? The man leaned forward eagerly. Apparently, he used to play the drums in a school band during his student days. He claimed to have checked out all the bands he had heard of at the time. We were called Looks, but with the band boom during that era, I doubt you've heard of us. What? Your band's drummer was the best. I have all their CDs, and I even perform your songs at a cultural festival. Can I get your autograph? I'm not him, though. But I couldn't help reminiscing about the old days when he said that. You lived with an amazing guy. I'm jealous. I'd love to go to an old man band's concert next time. The man's excitement was at its peak. I don't know about that band. Did they become really popular? Catherine had never heard of the band. It seemed she considered it to be just one of those bands that only a few people in that scene knew about. Search it up. Our songs were used in car commercials, movies, and TV shows. We even appeared on the year-end music show. Indeed, our songs have been used in commercials, movies, and TV shows. Catherine should have heard them somewhere, but she probably didn't care about the song titles or the band name. As much as Catherine seemed reluctant, she started searching on her phone when urged. Now that you mention it, I did see that movie, Former Boyfriend, and that TV show too. I liked the theme song, and a girl I liked in high school sang it for me. Did you play in it, for real? I peeked at her phone. I created that song. Next, Catherine checked the visuals of the band. Are you the guy on the far left? You're really handsome. Amazing. Although you lose to the one in the middle. That's right. They were probably the most successful among lots of bands at that time. I felt surprisingly good hearing that. Are you kidding me? Because you didn't seem rich at all. I only cared about where to live and my car. In exchange, I didn't make things difficult for you, and I spent money on the places you wanted to go and the things you wanted to eat. At that moment, Catherine looked at me mischievously. Of course. You were the guy I chose after all. You have to have some decent accomplishments and character. With that, Catherine linked her arm with mine. That's why. I think there's a good person waiting for you somewhere, Rob. I believe meeting like this is fate, right, Chester? Everything around you will be taken care of by me because I'm here with you. Just like it was back then. What do you mean, Catherine? You're being noisy. Do you think you have something better than Chester? If anything, it might be creating new deaths. Even though I finally paid off everything, I'm fed up with it. The man remained downcast. I released myself from her arm, which she had linked with mine. What's the point now? I'm sorry, but I decline. I'm returning her to you, men. No, Catherine has chosen you now, so she belongs to you. Thank you for everything, and I'm sorry. Stop it. I only have one body, so we need to decide who gets me. Being beautiful is such a burden. No, we're not competing for you. If anything, we're just rubbing it in each other's faces. Catherine, do you even know what you're saying? Perhaps you're too full of yourself. Who are you to judge? Can someone like you, with a low level of education, comprehend what I'm saying? I may have only completed high school, but I don't think I'm uneducated. The man seemed to want to say something like, "What about you?" as he looked at me. I went to college as part of a promise with my parents when I started the band, but... What? Jester, you went to college, but you said you didn't know about the cultural festival, right? Weren't you supposed to have only finished high school? That's rough. When I was in high school, our band had already secured a debut, so there was no time for school. I was busy commuting between school, concert venues, TV stations, and recording studios every day. I barely had enough attendance, and I never participated in the cultural festival or sports festival. I remember we had to cancel our school trip because of a recording session. My high school days were quite sad. Of course, I couldn't participate in club activities either, and I only made a few friends. Right? It's important to finish college nowadays. Your parents must be wonderful. Got it? You need to disappear from my sight and go somewhere far away. Jester and I are going to soar through the world with music. Please fly away only by yourself. At that time, you will go with me. Why bring this up now? You left me because you thought I only made $10,000 a year, right? You'll come back to me as soon as you find out I have money. Isn't that a bit opportunistic? Don't be so mean. We just didn't know each other well enough back then. I admit that an annual income of $10,000 does make me think about the future, but it's your fault because you didn't tell me about it. I won't blame you, though. After all, we're going to work together from now on. It's not uncommon for divorced couples to remarry. Even celebrities have done that recently, you know? Catherine looked at me with that adorable smile she used to have. As I reached out to grab her extended hand, a familiar car horn blared. Sorry for being late. The weekend nightlife can cause traffic jams. Even this late at night, with 3 lanes and all, hop in quickly. All right, I can park here for long. By the way, is that a pickup? Who's the girl? She's dressed like a young woman, but she's not that different from me, is she? I had been drinking, and I had contacted her to pick me up. I quickly got into the car. Who's that woman? Were you cheating on me since we were together? I had been silent until now, but I couldn't keep my word. That's my line. I knew you were with that guy a year after we got married. He was young and had a thing for gambling. I believed you'd come back to me soon because you were just fooling around with a younger man, but you left. I'm done with you. If you were just blinded by a younger man, it would have been one thing, but I found out you were also blinded by money. Breaking up was the right decision. What? I'm younger than that old lady, and I understand you better than she does. Don't let that woman deceive you, Chester. You should realize my worth soon. Can you give me a ride? Catherine continued talking, but I ignored her and closed the door. She seemed to be rattling the door handle and even kicked the door. If you're feeling unwell, I apologize. Is that your ex-wife? She's chasing after us. When I looked back, Catherine was running down the middle of the road, chasing after us. After that incident, Catherine learned that the man had a massive debt. Catherine had to work day and night to make ends meet, but it seemed that her debt had finally been paid off recently. After a few years, she went out to eat and had some alcohol after a long time. That's when she bumped into me, who she saw as beneath her, and started provoking me. It seemed like Catherine was struggling just to get by in life. During that time, she had called me several times, but I had blocked her calls. Catherine had returned to the man she had left, but it seemed that he had not accepted her. At the live performance of the middle-aged band, Catherine's ex-boyfriend, who had come to see the show, approached me in the excitement after the performance. I didn't really want to know, but I was a little curious. After that, I didn't hear anything more from Catherine. Back in those days, right after Catherine left the house, there was a change in my assigned manager. My previous manager was replaced by a tall, long-haired, slender beauty named Marie. While we had exchanged audio files for the work I had done before, she insisted on face-to-face meetings for the handover. She arrived an hour before the scheduled meeting and was waiting for me in the living room of my house. I asked her to watch TV while waiting, but after a while, I heard the sound of a vacuum cleaner in the living room. When I went to see what was going on, she had started cleaning. I'm sorry. Did I disturb you with the noise? I apologize. No need to apologize. Thank you. Take your time. Is it okay if I continue like this? Do as you please. It was like this every time. So, I started to wonder, what would Marie do if I cleaned everything perfectly before she arrived? With that thought in mind, one day, I cleaned the room and waited for her. I was expecting to see what she would do, but there was no sound coming from the living room. Did she start working on her device as usual? Thinking that, I concentrated on the remaining tasks. However, after a while, a good smell wafted into the room, so I stopped and headed to the living room. I'm sorry. The food was about to expire, so I made it. Please eat it later. Maybe cooking for yourself once in a while is a good idea too. At that moment, I fell for the domestic Marie. Or rather, she had captured my stomach completely. I confess my feelings once again, and now Marie is living with me. The middle-aged band, which was originally started by old guys reminiscing about the past, is doing well, appearing on TV and being featured in magazines. We maintained our activities just as we were. It all started as a music venture initiated by middle-aged guys who wanted to reminisce about the past. We didn't want it to affect our main jobs. That's why we only had one live performance a month, making us a band that was hard to get tickets for and gaining popularity mainly through social media. I continued providing songs and even had a few million sellers. On the back of this success, the producer told me that their plan to form a few new groups was in progress, and I spent every day working on my computer until late at night. I also continued my part-time job at my brother's burger shop, and every day was both enjoyable and busy. One day, I was relaxing at home on my day off after a long while. I'm back. I worked up a good sweat. It feels great. Marie, you have returned from the gym. Sit down next to me. We have plenty of space, so you don't have to sit over here. I moved to a newly built apartment from the one where I had lived with Catherine until a year ago. I wanted everything to be new, although the rent had gone up. Don't be mean. It's already been decided that my seat is next to you. Hey, I feel like breaking a sweat with you again, Chester. She said that and rested her head on my arm, peering at me. Oops. I picked Marie up. I can see the apartment building where I used to live until a year ago. Don't you think you've put on a little weight? Not at all. If anything, it's a happy weight. Saying that, Marie wrapped her arms around my neck, and our lips met. I'll make you forget about living in that old. It's been a while since the last time, so it might not fit. Don't worry, we'll make it work. Just relax. I said this to my ex-wife, whom I thought I had parted with, as she looked worriedly at me. Think it'll fit? It just barely did. Sharing this conversation with my ex-wife, I cherished this happy moment and couldn't help but smile. My name is Matt. I work in IT. Feeling the strain of sitting at a computer every day, I've recently started walking a block to get some exercise. Today, I left work early, and the sky is bathed in the colors of the setting sun. Walking down a quiet main street, I caught a glimpse of my reflection in a shop window. I made a wry smile in my slightly wrinkled suit and checked my ear. There was an empty earrings hole. Maybe it's starting to close up. I really should wear something in it. I smirked. It's not prohibited at work, and I thought, maybe I should wear something subtle. Realizing I had finally come to terms with the thought, I laughed at myself. The reason I got earrings. It was because of my wife. Note my ex-wife, Karen, who couldn't wear her wedding ring all the time. She wanted to wear earrings instead. When she said she couldn't wear it, it might be misleading. According to Karen, wearing it on my finger, I might lose it, and it gets dirty, doesn't it? I want to take care of the ring you got me, Matt, she said. So, we decided to wear less tarnishing earrings in place of our wedding rings. Neither Karen or I had ever gotten earrings before, and we both shouted in pain when we did. Together, we continued to wear subtle yellow stone earrings, saying ouch and it hurts. To say it myself might sound boastful, but Karen is stunningly beautiful, kind-hearted, and responsible. We attended the same college, and she even led a club. We dated from our college years, and she's always been there, pulling me along, and that's how I fell for her. After getting jogs, we get married and lived happily for 3 years. To clarify, it's not that we grew to dislike each other and then divorced. The reason for our divorce was, in a way, a difference in values or perspective. To put it simply, intimacy faded. In our 3rd year of marriage, we both settled down at work, and I wanted kids soon. Karen said she loved children, and I believed ours would be adorable. But just as I had that thought, Karen began to distance herself from me. I thought it might be an emotional or physical problem on my end, so I initially dismissed it. But when it became clear that she was avoiding intimacy, I decided to talk to Karen. Karen, you've been avoiding me lately, can you tell me why? Huh? You know, communication shouldn't be one-sided. If I've done something to upset you, I'd like to fix it. At that time, I thought there might be an issue with me. The two of us get along well, and Karen is always sweet to me. So I thought, maybe, it's a matter of technique. But then, I received an unexpected response from Karen. It's not that you have a problem, really. Yes, I'm sorry, I should have talked to you. You see, I don't want kids. I felt like I'd been struck by lightning. Maybe it's old-fashioned, but I thought having kids after getting married was the norm. But, you like kids, right? You used to volunteer and play with them. I love kids, but I don't want one of my own, I'm sorry. I knew you wanted kids, and I couldn't say it. I thought maybe after we get married, I'd want them, but I just can't. This is my fault too, but we didn't have a proper discussion about the child. I just assumed Karen wanted them too. I know I messed up now, but I didn't think so at the time. I love Karen, of course. But is there a point in a marriage without children? I started to think that it wouldn't be different from just being lovers. We talked about it many times after, but we never saw eye to eye. If we stayed together, I feared we'd grow resentful and end up hating each other. So, wanting to avoid that toxic environment, we divorced. I'm grateful it happened before we started despising each other. But I was lonely. And because of that, I took off the earring I wore with Karen. Along with the ring. The earring hole from before our marriage hasn't fully closed yet, perhaps because I wore it for so long. It's been a year since our divorce. Maybe it's time to move on. With that thought, I headed to a jewelry store to buy a new piece. Why not a general store? It felt awkward to enter one alone as a man. In a jewelry store, it's easy to pretend I'm buying a gift for a girlfriend, and I thought if I'm going to wear something, it might as well be good quality. Inside the jewelry store, there were sparkling gems everywhere. In one corner, there was an earring section. I wanted something simple like before, with a stone. While browsing, a sales clerk approached me. Can I help you find something? Oh, yes. I'm looking for a simple earring. Wait. To my surprise, the sales associate was Karen. She seemed just as shocked. Apparently, she had switched jobs and now works here. It's been a while. A year, have you been? Oh, you too. Did you change your makeup? I adjusted it for work, and it seems like you didn't iron your suit, it's all wrinkled. After a long separation and having not spoken since our divorce, Karen and I were able to talk just like before. I had bought a new earring, this time with an orange stone, and glanced at the store's clock. It was exactly 5 p.m. It seemed Karen was just getting off work. How about dinner? There's a new Italian place nearby. Oh, I've been curious about that place. Let's go. Karen and I entered the restaurant together. Having been a year since we last met, we spent our time reminiscing about the good old days, talking about work, sharing stories of our blunders. Even though we sat down for dinner, we got so caught up in our conversation that before we knew it, it was pitch dark outside. I really should head home, but to be honest, I feel like there's so much more to talk about. It seemed Karen felt the same as she invited, "Why don't you come over to my place, it's close by." I didn't have a reason to refuse, and it didn't seem like Karen had a new boyfriend. With both of us having the day off tomorrow, I ended up staying at Karen's. Things might have progressed quickly, but considering we spent 3 years of married life together, it just felt natural. We talked until the next day. So, one of my juniors mistook gravy for coffee, it was hilarious, I burst out laughing. Haha, why do you even have gravy at work? It felt good. It was as if we were back in our college days, and it put my heart at ease. This past year, the loneliness I had felt was gone. I realized I still love Karen. And now, I see how selfish my thinking was back then. Karen? Yo, what's up? I know it's late, but I want to apologize to you. If I miss this chance, I might never be able to convey my feelings. I looked straight into Karen's eyes. Karen seemed to have an idea of what I was about to say as she gazed back at me. I was foolish, I was so obsessed with the idea of having kids that I never considered your feelings. You're the one who would carry and give birth to our child, it'd be a huge responsibility for you, and yet, I never had a proper discussion with you about it, I'm truly sorry. I bowed my head to Karen. Being able to talk to her again made me realize the significance of her presence in my life. At this point, even if we didn't have kids, as long as I can be with Karen again, that's all I want. I also wanted to talk about that, and Nat, I owe you an apology too, I was scared to tell you the real reason I didn't want children. Karen began to speak softly. You know I have a younger sister, right? Yeah, there's quite an age gap between you two, right? 6 years, when I was 6, I hurt her. The story from when Karen was 6 years old continued. Karen deeply adored her newborn baby sister. One day, when their mom stepped out briefly, the baby began to cry. Back then, I thought she was missing mom and felt lonely, so even though I was told not to, I wanted to comfort her and picked her up. However, a 6-year-old girl can't suddenly carry a 2 or 3-month-old baby. Trying to console her crying sister, Karen tried to imitate how adults hold babies, but during that attempt, she accidentally injured her sister. I lost balance because I was being careful with her wobbly head. She hit her arm against the wall. Thankfully, it wasn't a serious injury, but one wrong move and she might have broken a bone or gotten more hurt. I shouldn't have tried to carry a baby with such a delicate neck, especially at my young age. Seeing her cry continuously because of the pain scared me. I realized how fragile babies truly are. After that incident, Karen developed a trauma towards holding infants. I love kids, but I can't help but fear that I might hurt them again. It was terrifying. As Karen lowered her head and whispered these words, she looked up at me. But something changed in me. In the past year since her divorce, it turns out that Karen's sister, April, had given birth. It was around 6 months ago, and Karen met her nephew. April asked me to hold him. I resisted with all my might. But April said, "You're still haunted by the past, aren't you? I know you love kids. It's okay. As long as you love the child, you won't hurt him, because you're a kind soul." Taking advice from a nurse on how to hold the baby, Karen held her nephew and was captivated by his angelic smile. He was so adorable and delicate. Holding him, I felt how precious a baby truly is. And it reminded me of you, Matt. I did want to have a baby with you. After the divorce, I regretted it. I just listened quietly, deeply respecting Karen for overcoming her long-held trauma. Karen somehow managed to overcome the trauma she had been carrying for so long. What might seem trivial to others was a significant step for her. Knowing she thought of me as she took that step warmed my heart. I know it's presumptuous, but I want to be with you again. I feel the same way. Our eyes met. The time span of a year showed us how much we genuinely cared for each other. I still love Karen, and she still loves me. I want us to be together again. That's what I felt. Haha, I guess. If we're getting back together, I didn't need to buy these earrings. I took out the earrings with orange stone I bought today from my bag. If I'm with Karen, I can wear what I used to every day. Shrugging about its newfound redundancy, she said, "Actually, I bought the same one." What? Karen laughed as she took out the exact earrings. If we're getting remarried, our commemorative earrings should be our second set, right? I couldn't help but laugh. It had been a while since we wore earrings. Come to think of it, Karen was the one who put on my previous earrings. Hey, put it on for me, please. Karen showed her ear, pleading. I found it endearing and moved closer to her, saying, all right. But it's been so long, it might not fit. It's okay, everything will be fine. Just relax. I said as I touched Karen's earlobe and put an earring through it. You think it'll go through? It was a close call. Really? Glad it wasn't closed up. Now, Karen puts an earring through my ear. The new earrings feel foreign, but they are more than perfect to commemorate our new beginning. Years later, in my arms, there was a tiny life. Thank you, really, thank you, Karen. Oh, stop, you are crying too much. After remarrying, we had decided, after discussions, to have a child. Of course, we didn't push it. We just hoped for it. So for the first few years of our marriage, it was just the two of us. Then, this year, Karen's pregnancy was discovered. After a difficult labor, Karen let me hold our daughter. We'll have to take the earrings out for a while, it's risky if she pulls on them. True, the holes might close up this time. Karen, laughing joyfully, gazed at me and our daughter. Seeing her so happy, and our daughter's innocent smile. Surrounded by the two of them, I feel truly blessed. If they close up, let's get earrings. Matching ones with our daughter. Haha, sounds good, but what if she throws them away during her rebellious phase? I turned pale. I can't bear the thought of being rejected by such a cute daughter, but it's a rite of passage for all fathers. However, this I can promise. No matter what, I will protect both of you. I vowed this to my smiling daughter. Poor thing, let me disinfect that poverty smell for you. That's what the leader of the local mom group said as she poured hot cream stew over me. I was already uncomfortable being forced to attend their New Year's party, and now this? I couldn't stay silent any longer. From now on, I'm cutting off all dealings with you. I finally spoke up about everything I had been silently enduring. Then the leader of the mom group began to deeply apologize, but her tragedy was far from over. I am Olivia, 37 years old, a working mom raising a 7-year-old son. My husband passed away shortly after we got married, so now I'm back at my parents' house, getting their help but still supporting my son as a single mother. There are neighbors who don't think well of me. One of them is Victoria. She and I are the same age, and I had hoped we could be friends, but Victoria fully displayed her intense personality. She looked down on me, a widow, as if she was more successful. I met Victoria soon after I returned to my parents' home. Good morning. Oh, a new face. Who are you? I met Victoria, chatting brightly with the other moms while taking out the trash in the morning. Just as the rumors said, Victoria exuded the aura of wealth. I'm rather introverted and plain, so I felt intimidated in her presence. Just as I thought Victoria, who approached me so friendly, was a nice person, she quickly showed her true colors. You're my age. Really? You don't look it. Is that so? Yes, you're dressed so plainly your hair is unkempt. You look poor. Why don't you dress up more? That's why your husband left you, right? Victoria said this in a mocking tone. I told her that my husband had passed away and that I couldn't dress up because I had work. Then Victoria, hearing this, widened her eyes and burst into loud laughter. Really? Poor you. Wait, you work? Is that why you seem so desperate? I couldn't live if I ended up like that. Hearing her words, huh? I couldn't help but let out a small. It seems Victoria didn't miss that. She immediately glared at me, speaking down to me in a harsh tone. What? You got a problem? It's the truth, right? You're a loser in life. You must be so envious of a successful person like me. Hearing her words, I immediately thought I didn't want to associate with her anymore. Yeah, that's right. Well, I'm in a hurry. What's so funny? Laughing when you're being made fun of? That's creepy. So you admit you're a loser? Pathetic. Victoria continued to provoke me, and I left the scene, unable to hide my irritation. Behind me, she got mad. I could hear Victoria's voice saying, "What an unpleasant person." That was my first impression of her. The next time I saw her was on the day of my son's class observation. My son had left our hometown and was taking his first steps in a new land, with new friends. As a worrier, I always wondered if he was being bullied or if he had friends. But seeing him mingle and have fun with his classmates at school was a relief. That's why I never missed his class observations. Victoria also seemed to always participate in school events, so I inevitably saw her there. But since I avoided her as much as possible, there was no harm. By then, I had made what you could call mom friends. All of us were working moms, and we regularly held mom-friend meetings. None of them were spiteful like Victoria. Everyone respected each other, making it a comfortable place. Today, one of these mom friends invited me to a New Year's party. I immediately agreed to join and was excited about what dish to bring. Then, Victoria, hearing about it somehow, appeared with her entourage. Still wearing plain clothes? Why don't you dress up for a change? My husband recently secured a deal with a big corporation, so we have more money than we need. But Olivia, you still look so poor. Victoria said this right away, looking at me without restraint. The mom friends around me also seemed uncomfortable with Victoria, all of them making sour faces. By the way, are you having a New Year's party? I'll join too. Victoria, having overheard, said this as she leaned in. Honestly, we didn't want her to come. But we hesitated to say it to her face. Sensing our subtle discomfort, Victoria approached us with an irritated look. What? Is there a problem with me joining? I'm trying to reach out to you poor people, and you can't stop that annoying attitude? The New Year's party date isn't set yet, so you're just making up excuses to exclude me? How terrible. Is this the kind of harassment towards mom friends I often read about on social media? Aren't you embarrassed to do this in front of your children? Victoria's loud complaints made other parents at the school frown. Seeing the parents whispering to each other because of Victoria's loud accusations against us, I felt as if we were the bad ones. All right, fine. I didn't understand why Victoria wanted to be involved with us, but after her comments, we couldn't refuse. Reluctantly agreeing, Victoria's face lit up innocently with joy. We dispersed that day with gloomy expressions. Then, on the day of the New Year's party, Victoria ended up taking charge of the event. Originally, it was supposed to be at someone else's house, but Victoria insisted. My house is bigger. So it was held at her place. We arrived at Victoria's house with a sense of dread. Entering through the grand gate, the marble-floored entrance and the opposing staircase to the second floor overwhelmed us, making us feel like we were in a rich foreigner's house. Victoria, seeing us speechless, smiled delightedly. Her entourage was already there, surrounding her. Overwhelmed? Well, I guess it's expected of poor people. There's a pool in the garden, visible from the living room window. I often host barbecues there with celebrities. All thanks to my husband being a young CEO, this is the life of the successful, she said cheerfully, leading us to the living room. The interior was stylish, like a model room. Just as Victoria said, the pool was visible from the living room window. You losers will never be able to afford a house like this in your lifetime. Victoria, in high spirits, asked me to help bring a pot from the next room, where her husband was. Her husband, named John, greeted us with a nod and a refreshing smile. After placing the pot on the stove, he quickly went to the kids' room in the back. For the kids, since the pot was dangerous, apparently steaks were being prepared. Isn't he wonderful, handsome, and a great earner? A perfect husband for me. You must be drooling with envy, aren't you? Victoria whispered this, seemingly hiding her true self from her husband. She brought another pot and appeared beside me. I moved my chair a bit to make room for her to place the pot. Then, with a sarcastic smile, Victoria leaned in close to me. Let me disinfect that poverty smell for you. Before I could react, I felt my clothes getting wet. Caught off guard, I was stunned as the other mom friends screamed. By the time I realized what happened, it was too late. Fortunately, I was wearing pants and a shirt, so I could take off my top. Victoria laughed at me. Oops, the cream stew was too heavy and I slipped. What a waste. Amid Victoria and her entourage's light laughter, the other mom friends defended me, saying how could she do such a thing. My thighs were scalded by the hot stew, and I couldn't take off my pants. Victoria's mocking smile haunted my view. It's your fault for being there. And don't forget, you tried to exclude me. I was so angry, I decided to embarrass you right here. A huge success. At those words, my anger peaked, and the stares from the other mom friends turned sharp. Being forced to attend this New Year's party of the mom friends was already unpleasant enough, but I couldn't stay silent after what had just happened. I took a breath to compose myself, then turned to Victoria to make my feelings clear. All right then, from now on, I'm cutting off all dealings with you. Huh? Victoria looked puzzled at my words, and I responded with a smile. It was what you might call a professional sales smile. What are you talking about? Did the hot cream stew scramble your brains? Victoria's usual mocking tone didn't faze me. I switched to my business mode and spoke to her politely. I've kept quiet until now, but I'm actually the president of a certain company. You mentioned yesterday, didn't you? About completing a deal with John's company? That's my company. Hearing this, Victoria's face darkened for a moment as she looked at me. Are you serious? If this is a lie, you'll regret it. I promptly took out a business card and handed it to Victoria. She looked even more troubled, as if she was looking at something ominous. Do you believe me now? I gave a similar card to John, so he should have it. What? What do you mean? You're not just some poor single mother? Victoria's hysterical voice drew John's attention. He peeked out, surprised at the commotion, and quickly brought me a towel. Seeing my face, ah! He exclaimed. Victoria, seeing his reaction, turned pale as she stared at me. Thank you for the hospitality the other day. I'm Olivia. As I said this, John immediately became apologetic and flustered. Seeing him like that, Victoria momentarily looked panicked, then quickly started making excuses. You see, I accidentally spilled the cream stew on her. It was a bit heavy, and one of my close mom friends. She did it on purpose. Then interjected loudly. Victoria glared at them, but John surprised. What? Made her jump. What's going on here? It's not on purpose. Stop making false accusations. Victoria's followers, trying to defend her, pleaded with me. However, I had no intention of covering for her, and shook my head. Victoria, didn't you just say you were disinfecting the poverty smell or something? My words drained the color from Victoria's face. John heard this, and glared at her sideways. You. What have you done? She's an important business partner of mine, and doing something like this to someone. Have you always been causing trouble like this? John's intensity startled Victoria. I had no intention of helping her. Victoria then bit her back teeth in frustration and defiance. Where's the proof? You're just trying to frame me. It's all your fault. You've been excluding me and avoiding me. I was just uncomfortable with that. Victoria pointed at the mom friends behind me as she raised her voice. Her usual prickly attitude and behavior had led to this, but she seemed oblivious. It's because you always judge and mock these working moms, calling them poor. You're reaping what you sowed. I said this in a calm tone, and Victoria gnashed her words even more. I only told the truth. Especially you, Olivia. Seeing you, a single mother, working so desperately was just painful. And your, I'm trying so hard attitude, made me angry. Victoria lost her composure and lashed out at me. She was so frantic that she couldn't even hide her true nature in front of her husband. I glanced sideways at Victoria and directed a cold gaze at John. It seems that's the way it is. I no longer wish to be involved with this house in any way. Therefore, I am considering stopping all dealings with you. Your company is not at fault, but I've never felt so unpleasant before. At my words, John's face turned pale, his mouth agape. And then he glared at Victoria with eyes wide in shock. The major connection I finally managed to secure. Do you realize what you've done? Because of your outrageous behavior, we might lose this lifestyle. John said this, glaring at Victoria again before hurriedly apologizing to me. I'm terribly sorry for my foolish wife's behavior. Please show us mercy. If we lose the deal with your company, our future business plans and even our employees' livelihoods might be at risk. Please, President, give me another chance. I promise I will deliver results. John's desperate plea almost moved me. He wasn't at fault. But Victoria, interrupting his words, stepped on another landmine. Stop it. Apologizing to such a plain woman is ridiculous. It's fine, isn't it? It's their loss if the contract is cut. Your company is already well established, and we don't need to work with such a haughty president. Her words only irritated me more. She continued to belittle me, clearly unwilling to acknowledge me. You all act all so high and mighty, but working while raising children is a loser's game. Victoria's blunt statement earned scornful looks from the gathered mom friends. Shut up. How much more disrespectful can you be? I never thought you were this kind of woman. Was the usual Victoria all an act? Have you been deceiving me all this time? If you don't change, I might have to consider our son's future and make decisions for his sake. John's words turned Victoria meek as she looked at him. Divorce. If that's your true nature, it's harmful for our son. That. Victoria stammered, pale-faced and stunned. John looked at her coldly. I've been suspecting the recent company expenses were odd. You've been indulging in luxuries with the company's money, haven't you? I gathered evidence easily upon a little investigation. I always believed you were kind-hearted, but now it all makes sense. We need to have a serious discussion about everything. At John's words, Victoria collapsed to her knees. Glancing at her, John returned to the children's room. From there, I heard his voice informing the kids about the cancellation. Victoria, left alone, turned to me and dropped to the floor, pleading. Olivia, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Please continue the deal with John's company. We're mom friends, right? If you support me, John might reconsider. Please. And ask him to reconsider our relationship too. Victoria begged. Please. Please. In a feeble voice, I sighed and coldly gave her my final word. I don't care about your marital problems. I'll take the business matter under consideration. If you've been using John's company's money without permission, that's embezzlement, a serious crime. Face your actions and pay for your crimes. At my words, Victoria looked despondent and then silently began to cry. Leaving her behind, I and the other mom friends went to pick up our children. The kids looked disappointed, so we decided to go to a new place. Afterwards, Victoria divorced John. During the divorce, she was sued for embezzlement and had to pay back everything. Now, she's living somewhere with that debt. Her followers also got a good scolding from their husbands after returning home. It seems they were close with Victoria's family, so the husbands heard about everything. Though they weren't divorced, their households turned cold. Since then, my bond with the mom friends deepened, and we started to form family connections. Initially, I was anxious about meeting someone like Victoria in a new place, but I'm happy to have found my